My name is Dr. Bruce Perry. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist and a neuroscientist. Oprah and I have known each other for 30 years or more, and over that time, we've had many opportunities to talk about the impact of sexual abuse or domestic violence or poverty or racism on development and how that impacts people.
You say that the most important question to ask of people who have gone through trauma is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was in that moment that I had the biggest aha ever. It actually changed the way I see people, and it changed the way I operated my school.
30 years ago, when I was a neuroscientist, one of the things that I was struggling with was I knew that all of these principles about how the brain developed, how the brain changed, how people learn things, trying to translate neuroscience content in ways that would make it easy to understand and easy to learn for people that weren't neuroscientists. So if you're a parent trying to teach a child right from wrong, you're really trying to change their brain. So the neurosequential model is an overarching approach that we've developed. If you think about the brain as an upside down triangle, the bottom part down here is the brainstem. This is a part of the brain that mediates breathing and body temperature and things that are kind of regulatory. And as you get higher and higher in the brain, ultimately to the very top, you get to the cortex. And the cortex is a part of the brain that we're trying to get to in education. It's a part of the brain that mediates speech and language. It's a part of the brain that allows abstract thinking. It's a part of the brain that allows you to reflect on the past and anticipate the future. It's the only part of the brain that can tell time. And so the cortex is really the part of our brain that is the seat of humanity. Back in 2006, prior to this beginning of OWLAG, and Oprah had talked with me a little bit about this. I suspect that if you're going to go through South Africa and identify young, promising girls who are good candidates for the school, I would predict that poverty was an issue. There's domestic violence, and sexual violence is actually pretty common. And so when you started to look at the emotional burden that many of these girls were bringing into the classroom, it was enormous. A very high number of the kids were having mental health problems, depression, anxiety. I think these are related to what happened to them as they grew up. The adults in charge were themselves not really trauma aware. They were not very well equipped to understand what was in front of them. You need to realize that even though these kids may be doing really well academically, they've got mental health challenges that they're carrying with them. You can perform really well in school, but still have significant self-esteem problems, significant anxiety problems, significant problems with regulating your mood. These are all trauma-related problems, and frightened kids don't learn very well. And kids who have a history of trauma have a very sensitive, overly reactive stress response system. So they're very easily dysregulated. And this is what was happening. I felt that the way we were developing this neurosequential model for educational settings would be helpful for the school. And in 2018, Oprah asked, listen, let's do this. Let's make this school trauma-informed. Let's get staff, educators, leadership, students all on the same page conceptually, and that's what we did. You need to recognize that kids are all during the day when children are learning, they need to have regulatory breaks. They need to get back in balance so that they can open their cortex. They're going to actually perform better academically. They're going to retrieve what they've learned more easily, and they're going to put new content in more easily because their cortex is open for business. And that's what regulation is all about. Making people feel that they belong, making them feel valued and connected, and then they're ready to learn. There's never, ever, ever in the history of the world been an intentional, well-resourced effort to identify marginalized young women and give them the support and resources to become leaders in the world. It's never happened. The truth is, leaders of the future and the best leaders on the planet have all experienced hardship. You cannot become wise without having pain. But the wisdom comes after there's been some healing. And these girls will go out into the world and teach other people about these concepts. And that will have a tremendous echo effect on making the world a better place.